you left and went and got a house somewhere else?
Because you started cheating. Tip had some infidelities with a girl who I hired, and that girl is one of the reasons why I got my own house.
Did T.I. just get served divorce papers again? That's the claim ricocheting across blogs, with some posts insisting it happened on Monday, and that Tiny has officially filed after 15 years of marriage. The story sounds explosive. Marriage on the line, papers allegedly delivered, trust issues bubbling back up. But here's the reality check. Without a court docket, a case number, or an on-record statement from either side, this sits squarely in rumor territory. The details feel familiar because we've seen a version of this before: claims of filings, whispers about service, and then silence.
He just became a father, so I got 2 grandchildren now.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah, I got 2 granddaughters. I got a grandson on the way.
Wow.
King's about to have a son.
King's about to have a son. Congrats.
Yeah. And I told him I'm gonna make this the greatest gangster of all times. I will raise this child to torture you the way that you tortured me. I promise you, there will be an indictment in this young one.
But that's not all, because this time fans are pointing to Tiny's own words as fuel for the fire. She recently said trust was broken, and just like that, the internet turned a vague emotional moment into a headline. Still, there's a difference between a relationship hitting a rough patch and a judge stamping a divorce decree. So let's sort what's being said, what's on paper, and what's just noise. Reports claim T.I. was served on Monday. That phrasing alone should make your radar blink. No date, no county, no case number, no affidavit of service. In the real world, service leaves a paper trail. There's usually a filing, a public record in the county where one party lives, and proof of service if the process server actually delivered it. Without that, it's headlines with no receipts. And yet the narrative is compelling. Tiny filed once before, and a hearing was reportedly halted because T.I. hadn't been served. That historical glitch makes the new rumor sound plausible, like the sequel finally correcting the original mistake. But listen to this. Plausible isn't the same as proven. Unverified posts and recycled language often get mistaken for confirmation when dozens of pages copy the same line. If papers were truly served, we'd expect at least one solid breadcrumb: a case listing, an attorney's statement, or a credible outlet naming a jurisdiction. Until then, treat served on Monday as an unconfirmed claim, which is why people keep circling back to Tiny's own comments for context. King Harris has always pulled the cameras in, for better or worse. The mugshot era in 2022, the lives, the back and forth with critics, it all built a picture the internet hasn't stopped arguing about. T.I.'s stance has been consistent. He believes in firm lines, and sometimes letting a kid sit is part of the lesson. It's a philosophy he's hinted at in clips that resurface every time King's name trends. But that's not all. The latest wave didn't need a fresh arrest to catch fire. It took that tough love stance, tied it to King reportedly being left to cool off, and framed it as the moment Tiny decided enough was enough. Overnight, this stopped being a debate about parenting tactics and turned into a marriage story. People said the quiet part out loud. If he'll let their son sit, what else will he let go? And that's where the narrative shifts from discipline to divorce, because the way you handle a child often reflects the way you handle each other. This isn't their first time at the cliff. Tiny filed in 2016, and it was formal, public, and raw. They found their way back, rebuilt the bond, and doubled down on family as a brand. Shows, music, appearances, business moves. Whatever came at them, they absorbed it together. Accusations surfaced in 2021, a storm most couples never come back from, and they stood shoulder to shoulder, denying everything and holding the line. But listen to this, their comebacks always had one theme: unity in public. That's why this moment feels different. It's not an outside attack, it's a choice inside the house, about their son, their values, and who gets the final say when the love meets accountability. One parent sees a teachable moment, the other sees a wound that keeps bleeding. And when the pain is domestic, filings aren't a stunt, they're a boundary, which is why every conversation eventually circles back to one name: King. King is the storm and the forecast. He wants independence, commands attention, and doesn't hide from backlash. The Falcon Suite argument in late 2023 made that crystal clear. A family disagreement turned viral lesson in pride, privilege, and perception. It gets messier when you realize King's persona lives at the intersection of raised well and won't be told. Every clip becomes a referendum on his parents. If T.I. holds the line, he's too hard. If Tiny softens the landing, she's enabling. But listen to this. The public isn't aren't really fighting about King. They're fighting about what they think a mother should do and what a father should dare. That puts Tiny in a box she never asked for and T.I. on a hill he's willing to stand on. As King's choices get louder, the split between approaches gets wider, and a paper decision starts to feel like a natural outcome, which is why people aren't asking if Tiny would act. They're asking why she waited. Tiny has built a reputation as the protector, calm voice, measured words, a mother who loves hard and negotiates peace before she throws a punch. She has defended King while acknowledging his fire, put her arm around him in public, and pulled him back from the edge when the internet tried to toss him over it. But that's not all. The tone shifted lately. Less public cushioning. Fewer "he's just young" explanations. More quiet. Longtime viewers read silence like a statement, and the statement they read here is simple. The house needed a line. Posts started interpreting the vibe as a choice. Protect the child's future by refusing to co-sign the method. If the lesson is to sit, she won't sit with it. And when you reach that point in a marriage, paperwork isn't impulsive. It's proof you mean it. Whether or not every detail online is perfect, the emotion behind it makes sense. And emotions turn into logistics faster than people think. A split between T.I. and Tiny isn't about who keeps the couch. It's catalogs, companies, real estate, residuals, and the machinery of a two-person enterprise that was always bigger than gossip. Prenups might draw the first map, but the road still runs through negotiations that mix cash with legacy. It gets heavier when you add King's career to the equation. He's building a lane, but a family split changes who strategizes, who funds, and who sets the guardrails. Younger siblings feel that quake too, even if they never appear on camera again. Here's where it flips. If Tiny put this in motion, it wasn't a heat-of-the-moment swing. It was a decision made with lawyers, calendars, and the kind of clarity you only reach when you're done arguing the same point. Which is why people started looking for receipts next, because in stories like this, paper is the only thing that silences the timeline. And that's what everyone began hunting for. Receipts, whispers, and the silence that speaks screenshots landed on feed after feed, dockets, names, signatures that looked like a match. Some court watchers flagged them. Others said the marks weren't clean enough yet. Major outlets haven't weighed in, which only made the conversation hotter, because quiet from the top often means the story is still moving. Here's the kicker. The dates people are pointing to run tight with King's latest blow-up cycle, and that detail makes the whole thing feel locked. When paperwork appears right as family drama peaks, it reads like cause and effect. And when the posts don't get denied quickly, the absence starts acting like confirmation. People don't need every stamp to believe the story. They need a sequence that makes sense. This sequence does. That's why most folks aren't asking whether papers were served. They're already on to the next question. What happens now that the move has been made, and who speaks first when it's time to own it? This family has two classic plays. 1. Step out together, smile, and let the rumor starve under bright lights. 2. Go dark, do the work, and let the truth show up in filings or statements when it's done. The pressure this time leans toward a third option. Speak plainly about parenting, say why the "let him sit" philosophy crossed a line, and anchor the conversation in values, not vibes. But that's not all. The real shock wouldn't be an IG caption. It would be a straight-to-camera talk where either Tiny explains why she drew a boundary, or T.I. lays out why structure matters more than optics. If that happens, the internet stops guessing and starts reacting. Until then, timelines are measuring reactions, not facts, and the person who blinks first sets the tone for the break or the rebuild. Either way, what they do next decides whether this becomes a short storm or a structural change, and that decision is already in motion. The story is simple on the surface. Divorce papers served, a son left to sit, and a marriage finally hitting the point of no return. But listen to this. What makes it hit isn't the headline. It's the pattern. King tests boundaries in public. T.I. enforces. Tiny protects. The internet watches. At some point, protection stops being gentle and starts being firm, and that's when lines turn into documents. Whether the final word drops tomorrow or weeks from now, the path laid out here tracks. The timing lines up, the roles are clear, and the stakes are bigger than a trending topic. If this is the moment Tiny chose future over friction, you'll see it in how she moves next. If they fold back into each other again, you'll hear it in one sentence that resets the house rules. Either way, this chapter changes the way we see the family, and once that happens, nothing goes back to how it was before.